It is 8 o'clock. Welcome to the Tribe. Tribe TV tonight is going to be a little bit packed out. Got lots of things to look at. It's going to be a good night, I think. Really quite cool. So, listen, if you're watching on YouTube, please share the link. Share it to any of the other social media platforms you are on, like Facebook or Twitter, stuff like that. Don't think you can share it to Instagram. Not sure. But anyway, really good to have you with me tonight. And what do I want to do? Well, I've got some songs to play you. Just keeps us going, doesn't it? But I want to talk about a new prophetic word just released by Lana Vawser in Australia that I think is really significant. It's significant for me. I know that's really ministered to me already, but I want to share it with you in a few moments. And I think it's significant for Revived Church. So Revived Church members out there and all our family and friends around about who kind of are on this journey with us, you need to listen up. I think it's an important word for us. I think it's going to encourage you, which is going to be great. And then you're going to meet my brother. Jason, my brother, is beginning to help us with some areas of the tribe. He spends his life developing people in leadership and people skills and organizational skills and stuff like that. And he's going to be working with us in the tribe. And so I thought it'd be a great night to introduce you to him, him to you, and so you can get to know a little bit of our history. It's going to be everything from Gibraltar, Morocco, southern Spain, America, Afghanistan, the Balkans. I sometimes say it wrong. I called it the Baltics the other day, and Jason went, no, that's not the same place. But he's had an amazing life, finding himself in all kinds of unusual leadership situations, from, working in and around the world of the Taliban, right through conflict zones, leadership schools in the Rocky Mountains. It's quite an exciting life. So it's going to be a fun night to meet him. And, so we're going to do that. Is that okay? Next week is going to be our last weekly encounter night. We're kind of heading-ish out of lockdown. The main thing for me is that in-person services are beginning at Revive Church mid-April. I'll tell you more about that later on. But that means that my time is going to be a lot more taken up with in-person services. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do these sort of programs on an ad hoc basis when I've got something to bring, when I've got a bit of spare space. So if you want to stay fully involved with us, well, come and join us at the Tribe. That's going on all the time. These are members around the world that are connected to us and growing in the things of God together. And so if that interests you, if you want to kind of continue this on in a regular way, come and join the Tribe, where we'll keep going on. There's a commitment to keep doing that. And of course, all the other things to do with Revive. Well, look, while people are gathering, why don't we play a song? Here's one I wrote in lockdown. And let's just pray that the rain is coming. Hey, all right, I'm going to play this to you. Then I'm going to share with you that new prophetic word from Lana Vawser.
Return to him, that he may revive us, that he may restore us. Come, let us come home to him, that he may wash us, that he may save us. If we press on to know him, it will rain, and he will come like winter rain, like showers of heavy rain, washing over us. He will come us draw near to him, that he may cover us, that he may heal us. Come, let us worship him, that we may seek him, that he may bless us. If we press on to know him, it will rain. For he will come like the winter rain, like showers of heavy rain, washing over us. He will come like the winter rain, like showers of heavy rain, washing over us. If we press on to know him, if we press on to know him, if we press on to know him, it will rain. Come, he will come like the winter rain, showers of heavy rain, washing over us. He will come like the winter rain, like showers of heavy rain, washing over us. So we come, oh we come, oh we come.
Oh, that's a cute song, isn't it? Hey, I recorded that on an iPad, on GarageBand, which comes free with an iPad or an iMac. So all you budding musicians out there, it's great fun to play around with GarageBand. It's a freebie recording program, so you get on there and do some recordings that can come out all right. I don't think I finished saying what I was saying before I put the song on, which was next week is going to be the last in the weekly series of these programs. I think this is, I don't know, about program 74, something like that. And next week's will be the last for a while. We're going to do an encounter night. We'll do a worship night. It's part of an encounter week that Revive Church are holding next week. So that's going to be good. We're just going to worship and pray and seek God next Wednesday night. And then I'll take a little break off over Easter. And after that, it'll be a little bit more ad hoc. Revive Church, we are going to in-person services. All the details will come out this Sunday. On the 18th of April, we're going to go to in-person services, and I'll share how we're going to do that. I've also got some exciting news that's kind of brewing that I'll share this Sunday online too. That's really hopefully going to be a big blessing and lots of fun coming online this summer for Revive Church. So look out for that. As you'll have probably noticed this week, we're not having our drive-in service on Easter Sunday. The authorities wouldn't let us do it. So, oh boy, what a time, right? It's probably the safest thing to do was to hold a drive-in service in a car park. Anyway, there we go. We're going in person on the 18th of April, and hopefully stage by stage, all the restrictions will be getting lighter and lighter. Right, well, let me tell you about this prophetic word. And like I say, Revive Church and people that are tracking on the journey that we're taking, I think this is bang on for where we're at. So many of Lana's prophetic words really line up for me. Not always, because she's writing out generally to loads of people, but certainly I feel part of this ministry's tribe because so many of the words are online for where I'm at so often. And online, not because it's like, oh, that's what I'd like to hear, but online because I was already thinking that. I was sensing that in my prayer time. And Lana, you've put it into words and you've gone deeper and broader than I had thought, but I was sensing that from heaven. And so she's gone for it. You can find her website at lanavawser.com. And in fact, I'll put the link for this word in the details with this program, okay, so that you can go read it for yourself. Print it out, put it on the wall if you need to, stick it in your Bible, share it on social media. It's great stuff. Well, here's the word from Lana. She says this: I had an encounter with the Lord recently, and I heard the Lord speaking again over the pioneers. Revive, that's people like us. The greatest refreshment you have experienced by my Spirit will be found on the new pioneering pathway that I'm leading you into. I began to see many pioneers receiving the commissioning orders from the Lord for these new pioneering pathways, but there was a level of weariness of soul from battles that many of these pioneers have faced in the previous season. And even though there was great excitement for the new pathways the Lord was leading them down, there was also a feeling of weariness from previous battles. But when the Lord spoke those words about the greatest refreshment by his Spirit on these new pioneering pathways, I could hear the sound of rushing waters. I could feel tangibly the refreshment of the Lord, like a big cold drink being poured into the parched and thirsty, that would bring such deep healing, filling, and satisfaction to the soul. Deep refreshing was coming in his presence like never before as they built with him in these new ways. Deep refreshing was taking place as they lived in encounter with Jesus in the new, in inverted commas she's put here, building projects. I heard the Lord speak again: pioneers, what I am having you build with me now is not only becoming a well for others to come and drink, but it's a well that you will also drink from. God was speaking to me about this only yesterday. It's incredible. Immediately, I was surrounded by the heart of the Lord for these weary pioneers, that not only were these new pioneering pathways the Lord was leading them down, being wells of encounter with him and wells of his Spirit to spring up, that many would drink from and be refreshed and filled, but as the pioneers built with the Lord in these new pioneering pathways, they would be refreshed by his Spirit in the building and pioneering with him. The Lord spoke again: it will not be as it has been. It will not be as it has been. I knew by the Spirit that the Lord was speaking to those who have been pioneering with him, and there has been an incredible move of his Spirit, but the level of battle they faced almost knocked them out of their assignment. But this time it would not be as it was before. This time the label of battle weariness and exhaustion was no longer upon them. This time I saw the weight of his glory resting upon them so tangibly, so heavily. I saw them so overcome by his presence, so deeply refreshed in his Spirit, that they were living in a deeper place of communion with the Lord and rest in him, drinking so deeply of his Spirit and presence that they were coming higher above any effects of the battle that had knocked them around so badly to cause them to want to withdraw and quit. My beauty outweighing the battle. My beauty is outweighing the battle. Over and over again would these words resound in the atmosphere. The Lord was bringing these weary pioneers into a place of such deep encounter with him that the beauty of who Jesus is and the beauty of his majesty and holiness was outweighing the effects of the battle and bringing deep refreshing. They were finding a well of intimacy with Jesus in the beauty of his nature that was outweighing the weariness of the battle. I am restoring the joy of my salvation to their hearts, is a quote in it. These ones were not only being refreshed and replenished in the Lord as they moved into these new pioneering pathways with him, but the branding upon their hearts as the burning ones was going deeper than it ever had been before. A revival of his burning love, adoration, and beauty was setting their hearts on fire for him in ways they had never experienced. Man, I mean, I've been weary. In fact, I've been through a wearying season, just as described, where where the blessing has been good and great, but the battle has been fierce and there's been a weariness. And I just sense God saying to me this week, the way I'm leading you, I'm going to refresh you as you go forth. Like the children of Israel, when they left Egypt, it said none were feeble. And many theologians think that as they left Egypt, they were healed along the way so that everybody had strength for the journey out towards the promised land. So let's expect deep heart transformation, deep heart refreshing, deep touches from heaven in this time. I'll drink in a minute when I put a song on. Let's save that for later. But here's another thing. This is where Revive is going, this next stage that she writes about. This sums up what we're seeking to do in Revive. And even on Sunday, I hope to be just sharing with you a little bit of how we're going to be doing this practically, but spiritually, this is where we're going. This is the title of the second half of this word. It says, Houses and Wells of My Glory. I began to see houses and wells being pioneered all across the earth. It reminded me of the encounter I had had with the Lord recently, where I saw the arks the Lord was establishing through the pioneers for his glory to come and rest. As I looked these houses and wells, the Lord spoke. Pioneers, pray, fast, lean in and listen, for you are being positioned to house wells of my glory. That's exactly where we're going in Revive. The tangible presence of God was so thick in my office as he spoke these words, to house wells of my glory. Let's dig a well of God's glory in Hull and East Yorkshire for people to drink from, but for us to drink from and get refreshed too. Psalm 24, 7-9 began to resound loudly in my spirit. Lift up your heads, you gates. Be lifted up, you ancient doors. That the King of glory may come in. Who is the King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, you gates, and lift them up, you ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. The glory of God that was coming was like nothing that had been seen or experienced before, Haggai 2:9. And the Lord was refreshing these pioneering ones to house his glory and a mighty move of the Holy Spirit. So if that's you today, pioneering friend, she writes at the end, be encouraged. The Lord is bringing refreshment to you on the new pioneering pathways he is leading you down. And this will be the greatest refreshment by his Spirit that you've ever experienced. You will find a deep well of refreshment as you pioneer with the Lord. You will find deep refreshment as you feast on the word. You will find deep refreshment in the move of God that he is and is going to birth through you, building with him. Pray, fast, lean in and listen, for you are being positioned to house wells of his glory through what he is having you pioneer and build with him. Well, everybody, that is absolutely a word for me, for Revive Church, and for those that connect with our tribe, those weary warriors. We are about to dig wells of glory that we're going to find so personally refreshing. The future's not going to be like the past, where some things that have gone on that have been such a blessing. I mean, I've been in some major moves of God, but I'll be honest, at times they have just worn me out. It's exhausting at times. But in the future, I believe we're going to learn to carry the glory of God more lightly on our shoulders. Maybe we need to be more in team, like those priests carrying the Ark of the Presence, that we carry it in community in a way we've never done before. I don't know. But be encouraged. If you've been sensing the call to build, 24/7 houses of prayer, or just houses of prayer, you don't have to put the tag 24/7 on it, to go deeper with God, to dig a well for people to drink from, which is everything I've felt for the last year God is calling me to as we come out of lockdown. And this is a word for you. If you've been weary, this is a word for you. Let's build wells of glory across the land that the whole world can come and drink from and find restoration and renewal in God. Wow, wow, wow. Well, like I say, the link for that is in the details with this program, so you can have a look at it, share it, pray it over. Wow, I mean, as I read it again, I'm thinking I might preach on this on Sunday. Let's see. But like I said, I've got some fresh news to share with you Sunday, and that is all relevant to this prophetic word and how we're going to practically do some of that. So that's good. Well, listen, just so you can think about that word and let it sink in. Let me play you another song. And what better song than Glory in the Land? I wrote this as essentially I put myself in the mental place of being an old man looking back on the glory of God moving across our nation. Well, that's why we want to dig these wells for glory, that the glory of the Lord would flood the land and move. And there'll be a visitation in our nation once again, just like there has been in the past. So, well, have a listen to this, have a pray, have a soak in God. Look at the link if you want to. And then afterwards, we're going to come back. We're going to meet my brother, Jason Cooper.
Do you remember what we saw when the glory of the Lord hung like fire in our skies, and the nation began to cry? Do you remember in the street when his love brought thousands to their knees, and in the marketplace people cried, overwhelmed by mercy from on high? He shone like fire in the sky, and his glory captured every eye. The sunlight darkness, the moonlight blood. There was glory, glory in the land. There was glory, glory in the land. Do you remember how it was when heaven's fire fell on London's lost, and people wondered at times for days, crying out, how can I be saved? He shone like fire in the sky, and his glory captured every eye. The sunlight darkness, the moonlight blood. There was glory, there was glory in the land. He came with glory, glory to our land. You shone like fire in our skies, and your glory captured every eye. The sunlight darkness, the moonlight blood.
sweet. Glory in the land. Let there be glory in the land. Let's dig those wells. Let's seek God. Revival is always birthed out of a move of humble, hungry prayer, isn't it? Always. That's kind of always there. And I think we need to make sure that we come out of this time with a hungry, humble heart to seek God. And I believe many churches are going to be called to dig those wells, perhaps like never before, and seek God. And so God give us strength. And wow, the beauty of building these wells is that we get to drink from them, right? So I really think that's a word for me, for us, for Revive Church, and for the tribe and those that connect with us. Well, we're starting something new at the tribe, and it's called Coaching Conversations with my brother. And so I thought it'd be really good to play you the introductory episode of that, which is all about meeting him, finding out a little bit about his story, and giving people an opportunity to hear where he's coming from. Now, this is an audio interview. It's not a video interview, because the podcasts in the Tribe Zone are going to be audio podcasts, just a little bit easier for people to listen to. And a little bit easier to make as well at the moment, because my brother lives over in the Lake District, so it's just easier for us to put this stuff together. But his content is really fantastic, and his life is really fascinating, and a little bit of a hero of mine, my brother. And so I love the fact that he's willing to come and give us some of his really precious time and work with us at the moment. So here we go. I actually set this up in the interview, so I won't say any more. When I come back after the little interview, I'll share with you, we've currently got 50% off the leadership level of the tribe at the moment, tier 2. So if you're interested in going deeper into coaching conversations with Jason and all the other 600 modules of stuff that there is in the Tribe Zone, part of this global online learning community and apostolic leadership family that's growing around the world, well, between now and Easter Sunday, we've got 50% off joining that tier 2 level. I believe it is a model of leadership, an apostolic family fit for the 21st century. It's global, it's based online, and yet it's really personal too. And so we're just so blessed. We've got so much fresh stuff going on. My dad has recently done a big, like a family affair, this, isn't it? A big theological piece. He's a great teacher, and there's just been so much great response to the theological overview of the whole Bible that he's done, which is just fantastic. But we've got Andrew Murray beginning to do stuff with the tribe. He's one of the best preachers I know, and we're blessed to have him on the staff of Revive. And he's got a course on preaching and teaching that we're going to be putting into the Tribe Zone very soon, plus a load of other teachings from him. So it is constantly growing with new voices and new expertise. But for now, let's stick with this before I waffle on too much. And here is me interviewing my brother. And obviously I know his story, but I want you to know it. So here it is, my interview introducing Jason Cooper. And then I'll come back afterwards. We got more songs. I'll tell you more about the tribe. But let's have a listen to this first. Hi everyone, this is Jared Cooper. We're about to launch a new feature for tiers 2 and 3 of the tribe, the leadership tiers of the tribe. And it's called Coaching Conversations, and it's with my brother, Jason Cooper, who, if you've heard me preach, I mention him fairly often. He's a little bit of a leadership guru. And, well, he is to me anyway. And so I thought it'd be really good to just spend some time getting to know Jason and some of his history, because you're going to be able to ask questions and kind of connect in with some of the stuff that he's going to be bringing to us. So here I interview Jason. Obviously, I know him really well, but I want you guys to know him. And so here we are chatting about his history, which I suppose is our history a little bit, and how he can help you as a tribe member. Hi Jason, thanks for your time today. We want to just give a little bit of space to help people in the tribe get to know you and your history a little bit. Obviously I know the early years, but do you want to just start off with the early parts of your story, and so people can begin to know something of our upbringing and how that's impacted your life today?
Hey, well, thanks for having me on the tribe. So yeah, grew up in Wales till I was 10. In that era where we were riding chopper bikes and grifters and skateboards, building dens in the woods. Dad worked at the local steelworks. We were on the council estate. And I guess straight away, that could paint a certain picture, Welsh working class steelworks council estate. But I remember it being a really nice community and place to grow up. Mum and Dad were super involved in the Newport Bethel Temple. Eric Dando was our minister there. It was a pretty big sort of city centre church, I guess, by the standards of the day. And just as importantly, I'd go along every Monday night to Christian Endeavour at the local Baptist church on the estate with my mate James Hodges. So yeah, a childhood kind of really wrapped up in community and different church flavours. So in 78, famously in the Cooper family heritage, we sold everything, got into a Citroen 2CV and drove through France and Spain, and Mum and Dad took on a church in Gibraltar, which for the next 10 years created a whole massive dimension again, and was a huge adventure, massive ups and downs. When we were first there, the border was closed, I think, for the first 4 or 5 years. It was very much a British military base with a huge local population of all sorts of cultures and backgrounds. And Mum and Dad made a point of putting us straight away into local schools. So we quickly were, engaged with the local population, and sometimes to our mother's shame, knew how to do the Hail Mary and the sign of the cross as good as any local in no time at all. So again, a real straight away a real diverse experience. And we both of us ended up in the comprehensive school as it was then in Gibraltar, with an absolute mix. We had you literally had every strata of society, and I think to this day probably my working life has been based around that ability to connect with and relate to people from really different backgrounds. So my work has taken me into offices of prime ministers on the one hand, and prison work on the other, and sure has involved quite a lot of travelling and working in different parts of the world as well, all of which I think perhaps Gibraltar, strangely for a place that's quite small geographically, the breadth of humanity that's represented there probably was a really good kick-off and foundation for lots of the work I've done since. In terms of influences, I guess it would be right to say too that kind of having that first-hand observation of Mum and Dad leading a church, quite a lively church, quite a dynamic, lots of ways wonderful, but also a bit of a handful at times. Church that they were involved in leading gave me a kind of a front row seat at watching kind of leaders and leadership in action, again with all the triumphs and low points and disappointments and frustrations that would bring. And I think probably, again, in terms of kind of influencing me to this day, that kind of recognition that leadership and ideas on paper, as it were, or conceptually, vastly different to the real life experience. The difference between a phrase I perhaps overuse, and you'll hear me use again. When you're thinking about leadership, you really don't want to go to the zoo. You really need to go on safari. If you're not getting your hands dirty, doing it for real, you've really not started. You can come out of a 4-year academic course in leadership and psychology and be absolutely starting from scratch as you hit the actuality of kind of influencing, managing, relating to, leading real people. And again, I would say it would be difficult to think of a bigger foundation probably than getting that front row seat. Of seeing leaders doing leadership with all the trials, tribulations, and successes that would go along with that.
I love that phrase, don't go to the zoo, go on safari. That's great and absolutely true. The whole point of coaching conversations is going to be to get our leadership rooted in real life experience, isn't it? It's a whole different thing. Okay, so after the Gibraltar years, your world kind of shifted to outdoor pursuits, and that led and shifted then towards more leadership coaching. Can you tell us a bit about that part of your life and that part of your journey?
Yeah, so when I left school in Gibraltar, I did a couple of jobs. I worked on the RAF base for a year or so, and then for a big Spanish bank actually for a year or so as well. And they were nice enough jobs, but the biggest influence probably in my mid to late teens was I was getting more and more into the outdoors. I was really enjoying rock climbing especially, which worked really great as the border opened and we could get at the acres of rock in Spain. And certainly in the mid-80s, I think, for all the years we went climbing there, we never met another climber or saw evidence of climbers having been through. So I think we did loads of, myself, yourself and Dad, who always had a good head for heights because he was a scaffolder at the steelworks. Between us, we probably climbed loads of new routes that someone else has, they weren't very hard, I should say, but we probably climbed loads of new routes and had a lot of fun exploring bits of Spain there. And those experiences would have got boosted by a couple of trips up to the Sierra Nevada, skiing and climbing on the bigger snowy peaks up there. And so I was really getting fired up about the outdoors in those teenage years, just as a way, I think perhaps the urban crowded feeling of Gibraltar, albeit it was a very sunny urban, I should stress. It was kind of like Florida, not Slough, but yeah, that desire to get out and about in the outdoors, that really sort of sharpened while I was there, and it meant that when really as a family we moved back to the UK in the late 80s. I fluked my way into a summer job, kind of being a volunteer instructor at an outdoor centre in the Lake District. It was a massive opportunity. I was literally working at times with people who I'd been reading about in books and magazines, over the few years before. So it was a great chance to just kind of find my feet back in UK culture and indeed to start really the foundations of my current career, still connecting with people, building up experiences, taking learning and applying it to what's next. I mean that kind of works on the basics of how to use your canoe paddle or make a move on the rock climb, and I still think probably applies as a real basic sort of idea of learning it. I use it day to day in the conversations I'm having in the environments I work in now. So I ended up doing a great job actually up in Scotland in an outdoor centre there next, and it was great. I mean, we were skiing and canoeing, and I was on the local mountain rescue team, and to really within months to go from Gibraltar to the Highlands of Scotland and be in an environment I was in, it was really rich. It was a really big adventure for me, and a great time. I think the important thing in terms of what happened for me, kind of in terms of how I was approaching my working life, was that as much as I was loving, and still do to this day, I love the outdoors, and I'm a really keen biker and skier and very occasional climber, it has to be said. But yeah, I was really enjoying all that, but becoming far more curious actually about the sort of people development side of the work. So we're in the late 80s, early 90s, and the centre I was working at up in the Highlands of Scotland, we were getting a lot of the youth training scheme. The British government were funding, as I remember it, funding apprenticeships, and so quite big businesses in the UK, some of the bigger retail names, some of the big oil companies were paying to have their sort of 18 to 20 something apprentices come through, and we were doing kind of residential courses which were around personal development, and I found myself really quickly going from being really interested in the canoe stroke or the subtleties of one telemark ski from another, to finding the psychologies around learning and development and how kind of organisations were shaped around that. Really interesting. So that really was a bit of a key point in my early 20s. So over the next few years, I ended up back in the Lake District actually, and working at a centre that was far more kind of focused on what I think perhaps in the 80s in my sector we would have called development training. So increasingly working with graduates and managers at different levels, around personal development and leadership, teamwork, all those kind of big buzzwords of the late 80s. And it was a great time actually to be in that sector. There was a massive boom going on in the UK around that kind of training and development work. So I was surrounded by lots of really interesting people with big ideas. And, I couldn't begin to list the people who I owe a little debt of gratitude to actually, the people who would take the time to answer my questions and feed my curiosity and put up with me. I was still pretty young. It should be said, I was still pretty young. I was often working with graduates who were at this point better educated and older than myself. So it was a really for me it was a massive apprenticeship too. So I spent a heck of a lot of time working with real life teams from different sort of businesses, organisations, universities. I put in a lot of hours just stood in the rain in the Lake District, watching teams in action and just kind of noticing the patterns. Probably a good 5 years of my life was spent kind of in a muddy field or in a rainy wood or on a mountaintop. Sometimes the weather was nice, but it was the Lake District. Just getting to observe, watch, feedback into people in action, seeing how they were doing and how they were doing with each other, perhaps more to the point at times. So huge for me, a massive chunk of really kind of, for me, in my bones learning, just the patterns and the things that surface when you get to the luxury really of often in my job being able to step back slightly and watch what's going on. So really important for my development that. So it's probably worth just saying as well, just as this is a bit of a getting to know me piece, that throughout my 20s I was still, although my work was increasingly focused on that sort of development and learning piece, I was still involved in going on trips and off to the Alps, or did a really cool trip with my friend Ian to Spitsbergen. I was still really interested in adventure and getting outdoors. And the reason I mention that is that in some ways this part of my life culminates with me getting to go and qualify to work at the National Outdoor Leadership School, which is in Wyoming in the Wind River Mountains. So it kind of sits right there at the end of my 20s. I left Lakeside in a blaze of glory, which Jared will pull my leg about at some point later, and pretty much set off on this kind of 3 or 4 week interview, which involved crossing the Rocky Mountains. We started off in the desert in Utah, and kind of 3 weeks later popped out, having crossed the Continental Divide in like kind of cowboy country in Wyoming, and in so many ways, I actually got offered a job there, but didn't take it, because what happened was, this is still the late 90s, I got a fax by an aid agency who I'd been sort of very lightly involved in and talking to as part of my life before going to America. And to cut a long story short, the fax invited me to take over an aid program in Afghanistan. And I remember sitting on the steps of the mountaineering school there in Landa, Wyoming, and the fellow instructors were just like, it's Afghanistan, you've got to go. You got to remember, this was the late 90s. It was before 9/11, before we all knew who the Taliban were. My main, there's maybe two odd things that feed in to Afghanistan for me, and one was that my uncle had gone to Afghanistan on the hippie trail in the 70s, and that had somehow lodged in my head. And the other was that I read a book repeatedly by a 1950s adventurer called Eric Newby, a great author if you get to pick up any of his books. And he wrote a book called A Short Walk in the Hindu Kush, which was about a kind of a slightly madcap misadventure in Afghanistan. I think in the 50s or 60s, off the top of my memory. And both those things fed into this sense that this was kind of a place that I really could not say no to visiting. And it has to be said, I've not probably made this clear, but I'm definitely the most rock and roll of my family as well. So there was a slight sense that this was going to be a proper adventure in so many ways. Yeah, so I pretty much left the States, spent a few weeks in getting a bit of training. I seem to remember being kind of bullied by a bunch of the British Army, training me how to not get kidnapped and all that. And I think within weeks was stepping off a plane in Kabul airport straight into the civil war that was going on between different factions. And I was actually working in the Taliban administered bit of Afghanistan.
Okay, so you found yourself heading up large teams, very large teams in conflict zones for a while then. Tell us how that impacted your leadership and learning and began to shape it.
Yeah, so September 97, I think. So I left the land of Britpop and Cool Britannia and arrived in Kabul. It was a huge chance to put all this leadership stuff into full action. I'd done bits of kind of bits and bobs of responsibility and management in various organisations up till then, but this absolutely was going to stress test all that learning and thinking I'd been doing over the 10 years. It was a massive project. We had an international core of staff, a wider kind of hub of Afghan staff who really, in truth, ran a lot of the programs day to day. And then at any one point we had sort of 1,100 folks working on the project throughout the city. So it was a massive, by any measure, even if you take that it's Afghanistan and a civil war out of it, it was a huge chunk of kind of operational responsibility. The first thing I really want to say about Afghanistan is it's incredibly beautiful. For someone like myself, who'd already seen some nice bits of the world, I found it absolutely mind blowing. And I have to say, right at the top of talking about this part of my life, that my overwhelming memory of Afghanistan is fantastic people, beautiful landscapes, delicious food. I have to say, I still miss it years later. I overall had a fantastic time, and it was every bit as rock and roll as I was hoping. I got to hang out with aid workers and war journalists, and the French always were good at throwing the best parties. So in lots of ways, I've got fantastic memories of it. The work involved was focused on reducing a particular sort of fly-borne disease. So there's a big engineering component, a big public health education component, and a big kind of community component that was especially focused on the lives of the women in the communities we were working in, which, especially in the context of the Taliban kind of regime we were working under, was perhaps one of our most interesting pieces of work. I'd love to tell you that all that theorising and thinking about leadership in the 10 years before made for a completely smooth ride. But of course, as I've already mentioned, when the concepts hit real people and real operational challenges, the outcomes are often not as pretty and tidy as you perhaps hope they might look on paper. So for me, again, straight away, I should say this for me was a super rich time for learning. I found myself really learning fast what were the concepts, theories, models, ideas that felt like they were useful and served me well. And it has to be said, some of them were disarmingly simple. So, and again, if there's a recurring theme in my work, it'll be something along the lines of, most challenges or problems exist in the absence of a good conversation. You learn pretty quick, don't you, when you're working with real people, with their real ups and downs, and when you start to realise that you're a real person and you have your real ups and downs too. That almost always, almost everything that ever gets raised, you could go and try and Google it and look up some super clever idea, but nearly always it's going to boil down to somebody being brave and probably a bit humble and probably a bit vulnerable, and having a conversation that looks a bit more like curious and kind than here's my case, like it or lump it. And let's be clear, I've tried both, right? I like everyone. In fact, I'd probably say more than most, despite the fact I can come across like a bit of a tree hugger under the right kind of operational pressures and mix of personality. I definitely know what it is to have to use that kind of just tell them how it is kind of end of the leadership spectrum. And there is a place for it. I want to be really clear. There's a big element of thinking about resilience more as I hit this phase of my life. I worked in Afghanistan for the best part of a year. You sort of didn't get a day off in the fullest sense of the word. There was definitely scope for some sort of limited recreational opportunities. But yeah, it was a pretty intense existence, and I guess particularly with the ongoing kind of insecurity, and the city at times was getting rocketed every day. You were always a couple of notches up on the kind of alert level in your head. Yeah, so in this period of my life, I started to really kind of crystallize some of my own thoughts around how I respond to sort of stress and pressure and exhaustion, and recognizing how other people respond to. Again, one of those situations where you can spend a lot of time reading about emotional intelligence and recognizing kind of different people's kind of maps of the world, but it's sometimes in those moments where you're under kind of real demands that you can see this stuff kicking in, and again that kind of recognizing again that knowing a concept, understanding a concept, knowing it as a fact, even believing it to be true, won't always kind of come out behaviourally when you're under pressure trying to get something done with somebody else. That was a massive piece of kind of kind of learning from this time in my life. So yeah, there's no end of stories and moments in this part of my life. I ended up getting arrested for spying briefly by the Taliban. Still one of my favourite pub stories ever. I actually had I got threatened by the former secret police of the Afghan state pre-Taliban over a staffing issue that we had. You almost couldn't take probably even a day of that near year without there being a funny or charming or potentially terrible story to tell. So again, incredibly intense time, and I'm sure as we get a bit more into these sessions, I will I'm sure consciously be bringing some illustrations and examples from that part of my life too. We haven't really touched on it yet, but I went straight from Afghanistan near enough to work during the Kosovo crisis in a similar role. I worked briefly in Montenegro doing a kind of needs assessment, kind of observer needs assessment piece, and it's a bit more complicated than this, but I worked for a couple of different agencies and ended up in the head of mission role again, the senior role in a project during the Kosovo crisis in 1999. So I was there sort of before, during, and after what some of you might remember as the NATO kind of bombing intervention that went on over the Kosovo crisis. It has to be said, it was a very different feel again. Kosovo and Albania doesn't feel culturally a million miles away from sort of parts of Italy and Spain, and obviously Spain I'd seen a lot of when I was growing up. So I guess the interesting bit of psychology that I noticed kicking in among myself and lots of my colleagues is that somehow Kosovo, in a negative way, seemed to get under our skin a lot quicker. There was something about the, this in some ways I'm not proud of what I'm about to say, but there was something about the exotic kind of Indiana Jones life in Afghanistan that sort of insulated you somewhat. And I think there was something about Kosovo that felt a lot like lots of places I'd kind of almost grown up. And to see, again, in this case, a civil war, at least initially, a civil war, followed by the international intervention, sort of somehow seemed to get to people quicker. It definitely felt a more challenging place to be. I think one of the interesting things I'd pick up on at this point, talking about the Balkans, Kosovo, was that I worked for a UK and a US based aid agency at different points during this time, and they were both what I'd call carefully kind of Christianized agencies. And I think one of the things that might be relevant as we're talking to the Tribe platform is to just say that I have worked for quite a few organizations where there is sort of something of Christianity in their DNA, and I say it carefully like that because my experience of working for many charities and Christian organizations in different contexts is that it can be really challenging, and sometimes the biggest challenge is to understand sometimes that you're not actually dealing with a Christian organization, but again, I'm going to use the word a Christianized organization, and kind of knowing the difference and knowing what that means and how to sort of navigate that can be really tricky. Yes, so I have a feeling that some of you will, as I've been saying that, you'll know exactly. Some of you are probably going, yeah, I kind of think I know what he's going for, and it's probably some other folks who that's going to need a bit more unpacking probably. So we'll pick up on that in the context of the more specific kind of sessions we do later.
That'll be brilliant. Okay, so kind of coming into land now, just a couple more quick questions. All your years of experience have kind of led you to where you are today. Tell us a little bit about what you do today and how it can help the tribe.
Yeah, I work nowadays as an associate to a number of business schools and some of the UK's top-ranked and award-winning training consultancies. I guess predictably enough that the themes still revolve around kind of people and performance, whether that's in the corporate setting or occasionally in sports and adventure sport. I think that background now in driving programs and projects as a senior leader has really kind of boosted my practice. And it has to be said, looking around, in my sector, its guilty little secret probably is that there's actually very few folk in this line of work who have operational leadership backgrounds. I think it's helped me hold some of the models and theories a bit more lightly. I think it's given my approach a bit more kind of pragmatism. Hey, and perhaps most importantly, it's helped me really access that kind of emotional place that we often find ourselves leading from, where pride tussles with insecurity, where the expectation to look confident is undermined by the fact that we're feeling really anxious. Before we even start on the tension between being kind of results driven and focused and being gentle and kind and bringing all these different people along with me. I mean, just saying it out loud, it feels like a big ask because it is a big ask, isn't it? It is really hard to get this right.
Thanks, bro. Just one last question. So the leadership tiers of the tribe includes pastors, charity leaders, business leaders, artists, aspiring leaders, influencers, all that kind of thing from across 3 or 4 continents at the moment. What do you hope to add to their leadership journey through the new coaching module in the Tribe Zone?
Yeah, so I guess what I'm offering the tribe in the short term is a couple of times a month to post some short podcasts, perhaps each one taking a particular subject or a model. I'll try and mix things up with some really kind of tried and tested bomb-proof ideas that have been used for generations, and I'll blend that in with some much more kind of contemporary thinking. and I guess as we go forward, there'll be opportunities for tribe members to even perhaps, give us some ideas of stuff people are curious about or struggling with. We might be able to do stuff that actually responds directly to some of the members' areas of kind of curiosity as well. And yeah, looking beyond that, I'm already involved in sort of design and delivery of training programs for charities and church organisations, and I'm involved in coaching Christian influencers, church leaders, and members of national leadership teams. So yeah, get in touch if you think I can support through coaching, course design and delivery, whether that's in the virtual space or face to face. So yeah, enjoy the series. I hope you enjoy Coaching Conversations.
I'm sure we are. That is just going to be so great. Thanks, Jason. Okay, everybody. Well, there you go. That's my brother. And I just know from years of chatting to him about different things that we've faced at Revive Church and in ministry that he is full of wisdom that's really, really useful. It's the best of biblical and the best of science and psychology coming together. As they say, all good science lines up with the Bible. It's only the hokey stuff that doesn't. And, Jason knows how to kind of blend those two really well together. So we're going to be tackling all kinds of subjects like conflict management, pivoting and changing, how to, things like communication, all the usual stuff. But we'll tackle one or two subjects a month. It would be great to hear from any of you in tiers 2 and 3 of the tribe, questions that you would like Jason to tackle, organizational things that you're facing, problems that you can't shift, that you're wondering, well, how do organizations shift this? So if you have got a question, something for Jason to tackle, write to me, jared@jaredcooper.net, jared@jaredcooper.net. And we'll get that question to Jason and we'll tackle it. Also, if you've got questions for me, send them through as well. I'll do videos and put them up in another place in the Tribe Zone. I do Q&As myself. But be really great to hear Jason's take on how great organizations solve these things. So there you have it. Coaching Conversations. They'll be appearing and they'll be anything from literally, it might be a 4-minute snippet through to a 20-minute session with visuals, depending on what the topic needs. But I'm really looking forward to going deeper into leadership with you. Come on, get those questions coming. Talk to you soon. Well, there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. That's Jason. Fancies saying that he was the most rock and roll of the family. I mean, it's true, but that's my brother. He's the cheekiest too. So it's going to be a lot of fun to be working on some tribe stuff there. If you are interested in getting in on these coaching conversations and all the other stuff on the Tribe Zone, plus the live stuff that we do, like this monthly Zoom calls and stuff, go to jaredcooper.net and look at Join Our Tribe. Right now, we have 50% off the leadership level. That's tier 2. 50% off the annual subscription fee for the Global Leadership Tribe from now till Easter Sunday. So you can get in at half price between now and Easter Sunday. If you want to come and join us in that would be really, really great. And I'll tell you more about the tribe after we've done a song. Should we do a song? That'd be really quite cool, wouldn't it? Here we go. What have we got? Let's just do this one. Then I'm going to come back and tell you all about the tribe at the end with our usual ad and stuff like that. Let's enjoy this song.
said, seek and I will find. I'm coming after you. said knock and the door will be open. I want to be with you, to dwell in your house, to gaze upon your beauty, to be a friend of God. Lord, all this is to me more than life, more than breath. You are more than I could ever hope or imagine. You said seek and I will find. I'm coming after you. You said knock and the door will be opened. I want to be with you, to dwell in your house, to gaze upon your beauty, to be a friend of God. Lord, all this is to me more than life, more than breath. You are more than I could ever hope or imagine, more than life, more than breath. You are more than I could ever hope or imagine. To dwell in your house, to gaze upon your beauty, to be a friend of God. Lord, all this is to me more than life, more than breath. You are more than I could ever hope or imagine, more than more than breath. You are more than I could ever hope or imagine. The Lord is good. Blessed be the name of the Lord.
Wow, those pictures were from God of the Breakthrough. I think it was October 2014. That's when we birthed Revive Church. Incredible. It was a great, great event. Okay, well, there you go. We're kind of drawing tonight to a close. Because it is, it's our penultimate one. We've got one next week, an encounter night next week. We're going to meet God. We're going to pray. I'll have the musical instruments out. We'll do stuff live, which would be great. But make sure you stay in touch so that you know when I'm coming out with ad hoc broadcasts and stuff. Is that okay? So head to jaredcooper.net and join the database. You get a free downloadable album when you join our e-news. Is that okay? So look for the free album tab, I think it is. And just stay in touch with this program. You'll also know when we're on. If you press which side is it? That side, I think, is the little subscribe to this channel. So subscribe to the channel. And if you could tonight, do a little thumbs up as you finish off. It all helps the algorithms and more people get to watch it, apparently. So that would be really, really great. And then, of course, like I say, I hope you've enjoyed meeting my brother tonight, rock and roll though he is. We've got 50% off that tier 2 membership of our global online learning community, The Tribe. And if that interests you, well, I'll tell you all about it now. The link for joining our tribe and finding out more is in the details with this program. Or I could just say head to jaredcooper.net and look for Join Our Tribe and join a family of hundreds of leaders and learners around the world growing in God together, which is really, really great fun. Right. Well, God bless you. I'll see you next Wednesday for Encounter Night. This Sunday, I've got some great announcements for Revive Church. So join us 11 o'clock on the Revive Church YouTube and Facebook channel, I think it is. Yes, both of those at 11 o'clock. Looking forward to speaking to you from there. But if you're interested in the tribe, want to know a little bit more, well, here is a little advert and I'll finish off with this. God bless you. Thank you for being with me tonight. I've had fun. And remember, let's go dig those wells of glory, that God's glory would be in our land. God bless you. See you soon. What is the tribe, I hear you ask? Well, it's a global online learning community. There are loads of us around the world interacting, growing, stretching in the things of God together and having fun as we learn. There's 3 tiers in the tribe. Tier 1 is basic access to our tribe zone. It is an online learning zone. We use the same software as Harvard University, so it's great, it's powerful, it's intuitive, and it works really well on everything from a tablet to a phone to a laptop. And you can grow with us in the things of God over everything from leadership to church growth to faith, things of the Spirit, prophetic, the miraculous. It's all there. 500 modules of audio, video, e-courses and stuff like that. As well as that, you get a private Facebook group where you can interact with Vicky and I, and we can be growing in the things of God together. Tier 2 is all of that, but it's for leaders. It's our global leadership tribe. And so it has a lot more leadership content as well. You get 4 books the moment that you join sent to you, and then you will get every book I write in the period of your membership sent to you free of charge. We want to invest in leaders, and so it's much more interactive at Tier 2. Tier 3 is where 10 leaders in one team can join together so you can learn and grow. It is a brilliant resource to give to all of your team. You don't always want to lose them as they head off to Bible school. You want to train them right where they are in a training community, and that's what this is. So if Tier 3 interests you, have a little look at that. Let me show you some testimonials of what people are saying about their life and learning with the tribe.
Hey there, it's Roma Waterman here from Melbourne, Australia. I just want to say I'm amazed at the amount of resources that are in Tribe and the fresh content that's constantly being added. I say this with complete truthfulness. I think Pastor Jared Cooper is one of the best teachers in leadership and the prophetic and creativity that I have heard in the world. So I highly recommend it. I highly recommend that you sign up and be part of such an amazing community.
Hi, my name's Dave Mellinger. I'm the pastor of Grace Church Bridlington, and we connected with the tribe because we knew a lot of the people, and the voices that we heard were encouraging and inspiring. A lot of prophetic voices that helped us and guided us. It helped us to feel like we were part of the global picture and not just our little part of the jigsaw. But above all things, we learned 2 specific things: practical and spiritual. And the practical things, that we have taken principles from the tribe and applied them to our church, which means we manage it better, we present it better, we make it look better and sound better. And the practical principles have been brilliant, but there is also the spiritual principles of apostolic anointing. And as we've listened and applied spiritual principles into our church, we've actually seen the church start to grow. And we believe that we're about to hit the second wave of growth from connecting to the tribe. So we want to say God bless you. Thanks for doing what you're doing, and encourage you to get involved if you can with the tribe.
Hi, I love the tribe because it's a place of the prophetic. It's a place of fun, and with a healthy dose of the practical included as well. There's a whole wealth of resources on there that will keep you going for years, and on such a range of subjects that you could do Bible school in your pyjamas if you wanted to. And where else could you get an international apostle like Jared answering your questions? It's just brilliant. So if you ever feel a bit like Elijah and thinking, oh, poor old me, I'm the only one left who's been zealous for God, then you can just log into the tribe community and discover, no, actually, God's reserved a whole remnant of people who are there, ready and waiting to encourage each other on and do great things for God's kingdom. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, come over and join us. It would be lovely to meet you.
Isn't that incredible? Head to jaredcooper.net and come on, join this family of people growing in the things of God, growing in the Word, growing in the Spirit, and enjoying this journey of walking in God together. You don't have to be alone. You don't have to make it up as you go along. Come and join the tribe, and let's enjoy life together.